Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Dave, and today we're kicking off a brand new series called Gilded Fuel Wars. This topic is something that has interested me for a very long time, and I look forward to bringing it to you here in this 5-part series. That's right, I hope you'll enjoy. Stick around to the end, like and share with your friends, and leave a comment below to let me know what you think about this new series. Thanks for being here. Think about your home right now. Chances are keeping it comfortable is pretty straightforward, right? You flick a switch, maybe tap an app on your phone, adjust the thermostat. Boom, warmth or cool air. We barely even think about the complex systems humming away behind our walls, delivering energy on demand. But rewind the clock. Go back about 150 years to the heart of America's Gilded Age. Roughly 1870 to 1885. Forget the instant gratification. Forget the seamless convenience. Back then, energy wasn't just something you used, it was something you fought for every single day. Before the click of that thermostat, before the silent hum of an HVAC system, before easy flip wall switches and remote controls, there was a fundamental choice every American household faced. A choice that wasn't just about comfort, but often about sheer survival. Coal, wood, or maybe that newfangled, slightly terrifying thing called gas? Which fuel would you gamble on keeping your family from freezing through a brutal winter? This wasn't just a practical decision. Oh no. In the late 19th century, your choice of fuel was a declaration. It spoke volumes about your class, where you lived, even your family dynamics, and your perceived place in the march of progress. It was a statement about whether you embraced tradition or chased modernity, whether you valued perceived cleanliness over cost or convenience over the familiar drudgery. In this opening episode of Gilded Fuel Wars, we're diving headfirst into this transformative era. The smoke from the Civil War was clearing, but the fires of industry were roaring to life. Cities were exploding. Immigrants were pouring in. Fortunes were being made and lost. And deep within the American home, a quiet but fierce battle for energy dominance was heating up. Literally. Now, this isn't a story you'll hear told through the usual suspects, the great inventors like Edison or the infamous robber barons like Rockefeller. No, we're going micro. We're zooming in on one family, the Warriners. That's right, they're fictional, but their struggle was incredibly real. Think of them as your average middle-class household trying to make ends meet in a rapidly growing, unnamed Midwestern city, maybe like Milwaukee or Cleveland or Chicago back in the day. Their story is one of soot and smoke and struggle. It's about stubborn adaptation in the face of bewildering change. Through their eyes, we'll see how their home, their sanctuary, becomes an intimate battleground where old ways clash with new technologies, where anxieties about cost and safety wage war against the allure of convenience, and where choices, seemingly small, everyday choices, end up having consequences that ripple through generations. Meet the Warriners. There's Henry, the father. He works as a clerk for the railroad. A respectable job, steady pay, but certainly not making them rich. It means long hours and the constant smell of coal dust and machine oil clinging to his clothes. And this is Margaret, homemaker, mother of 3, and crucially, the keeper of the flame. While Henry deals with the world outside, Margaret manages the world inside, raising the children, stretching the budget, mending clothes, cooking meals, and perhaps most importantly, keeping the fire, the literal heart of the home, burning. This chilly morning ritual was the unglamorous reality for millions of American women. Before coffee, before breakfast, before the children woke, the first task was tending the beast. Step 1, clear out the old ash every single day. No exceptions unless you wanted a choked, inefficient, or even dangerous fire. Step 2. Build the new fire. This wasn't like striking a match to a modern gas burner. It was an art, a science, a constant negotiation with the elements.
Still damp. Feels heavy. Henry should have split this smaller and stacked it under cover. It'll smoke before it catches proper.
Patience was key. You couldn't rush it. Too much air, the fire roared and died quickly. Too little, it smoldered and choked, filling the room with acrid smoke. Getting it right meant warmth, comfort, the ability to cook, to heat water for washing. Getting it wrong meant a cold house, wasted fuel, and frustration. Now, by the 1870s, the trusty wood stove, like this one, maybe a Stewart's parlor favorite, or a similar cast iron model, had largely replaced the dangerous, inefficient, open fireplaces of colonial times. Benjamin Franklin's earlier invention had started the trend, enclosing the fire, radiating more heat into the room. But even these stoves weren't perfect. They devoured wood, and a surprising amount of heat still vanished up the chimney. And believe it or not, there was still a lingering prejudice against these enclosed stoves. Some doctors, some social commentators argued they were unhealthy. They claimed the close, radiant heat was unwholesome, leading to headaches, poor circulation, even moral laxity. They romanticized the drafty, inefficient, but somehow fresher air of an open hearth. Easy for them to say. For people like Margaret, who actually had to live with the cold and manage the household, the stove, despite its flaws, was a godsend compared to a gaping fireplace that sucked most of the warmth straight up the chimney. Practicality usually won out over fussy theories.
It smells like the flu's acting up again. Draft isn't pulling right.
Because it's black, again. Neat sweeping. And cheap pine Henry Jr. dragged and left it thick with creosote.
And the fuel itself. Wood wasn't just magically there. Unless you lived deep in the countryside with your own woodlot, you bought it. Delivered by wagon, stacked, seasoned, hopefully, split and hauled inside piece by laborious piece. It was heavy, dirty work, often falling to women and children.
Add a little more water, stretch it out. We'll get fresh oats come market day.
For a family like the Warriners, living on a clerk's wage, every log counted. Every scoop of oats was measured. Every hour the stove radiated its precious warmth meant fending off the damp chill that seeped through the walls, preventing coughs from turning into pneumonia, keeping mold from creeping into the children's bedding in the unheated rooms. The fire was warmth. The fire was the center of family life. But the fire was also relentless, demanding labor, and it marked everything. Walls, curtains, lungs, with its fine black signature.
Coal! Get your coal! Anthracite, bituminous. Cleany for a hard winter. Keep the frostbite away. Coal by the sack, coal by the ton. Morning, mister. Looking to upgrade from them sticks? This here's the future. Burns hotter, burns longer. You got a cellar or a coal bin built yet?
Just a hatch down to a crawl space. Been thinking about it. Wood's getting dearer.
Everybody's thinking, city folks especially. Wood's fine for farmers put in town. Takes a mountain of it. This black diamond goal packs a punch. Storm's brewing, they say. You'll be wanting more than kindling come next week, mark my words.
Coal. It had been mined in America for decades. Fueling the engines of industry and the mighty locomotives Henry worked alongside every day. But bringing it into the home? That was a newer, more complicated proposition. Yet, by the 1870s and early 1880s, the tide was turning, especially in the cities. Why the shift? Simple economics, mostly. As cities swelled with people, nearby forests were rapidly depleted. Wood, once abundant and cheap, had to be hauled from further and further away, driving up the price. Coal, on the other hand, was becoming more accessible, thanks to the expanding web of railroads and canals. Henry's world, Vast quantities of this dense black rock could be shipped relatively cheaply from the mining regions directly into the heart of the cities. Coal offered more bang for your buck, higher energy density, meaning more heat per pound and per cubic foot compared to bulky wood. Easier to store in cramped city lots, too. But not all coal was created equal. Consumers faced a choice, dictated largely by price and availability. First, there was anthracite, hard coal, primarily from eastern Pennsylvania. This was the premium stuff. It burned with intense heat, produced very little smoke or soot, and lasted a long time. Ideal for home heating, if you could afford it and if your stove was designed for it. Then there was bituminous coal, or soft coal, more widely available, mined in many more regions, and generally cheaper. But it came with downsides. It produced significantly more smoke, more sticky soot that coated everything, and more ash. It also contained higher levels of sulfur, giving off that characteristic rotten egg smell when burned. For many working-class families, though, the lower price made bituminous the only viable coal option.
Coalman's out front, making his rounds. Says we're falling behind the times, still wrestling with the woodpile. Says coal's the way now.
So is the soot he tracks everywhere. Look at this rug. And the curtains. This wood ash is bad enough, but coal dust? They say it's greasy, gets into the very fabric. Doesn't just brush off, means more scrubbing, more live soap, more ruined lace.
He claims it burns longer, though. Hotter. Cleaner flame than that green pine we've been getting. Less time spent feeding the stove all day.
Cleaner flame, maybe, but not cleaner air or cleaner house. That bituminous stuff he's pushing smokes like a factory chimney, and anthracite costs a fortune. Besides, it settles on the furniture, in the food, in your lungs. Think of Peter's cough.
And the sales pitch was tempting. Coal did offer more concentrated heat. A well-managed coal fire could potentially last overnight, meaning no more waking up to a freezing house. It reduced the risk of chimney fires compared to wood, though didn't eliminate it, and it lessened the sheer volume of fuel you needed to haul and store. But Margaret wasn't wrong about the downsides. Coal burning, especially bituminous, released clouds of sulfurous smoke and particulate matter, contributing heavily to the smog choking industrial cities. The fine, often oily soot infiltrated homes, demanding constant back-breaking cleaning. And the labor didn't disappear, it just shifted. Operating a coal stove was its own demanding chore. You had to shake down the grates to remove the ash, often multiple times a day, carefully adjust dampers and flues to control the burn rate, haul in heavy buckets or scuttles of coal, empty the overflowing ash pan, a dusty, dirty job. An average stove might consume 50 pounds of coal a day.
And who's emptying that ash box twice a day, Henry? Who's hauling those 50-pound sacks from the cellar, assuming we even had a proper cellar?
The Peter's getting bigger. Strong lad. Could be his chore. Build character.
It was a conversation echoing in countless households across urban America. Every new technology, every shift in fuel wasn't just about BTUs and cost. It fundamentally altered the rhythms of domestic life, redistributed labor within the family, often adding to the woman's burden, and forced a constant calculation of cost versus convenience, cleanliness versus comfort. The decision to convert or even just supplement wasn't made lightly. It was about control, about whose work mattered, whose comfort was prioritized, and whose lungs might ultimately pay the price. The coalman might drive on, but the debate he sparked lingered long after the clatter of his wagon faded. Wood gave way to coal, but the energy revolution wasn't stopping there. By the 1880s, another contender was elbowing its way into the American home, bringing with it promises of unparalleled modernity and cleanliness. This was the age of gaslight. This wasn't the natural gas we mostly use today, bubbling up from deep underground. No, this was manufactured gas, or town gas, produced in sprawling, smoky gasworks facilities, usually located on the outskirts of the city. It was made by heating coal in airtight ovens, a process called coal gasification. This volatile, flammable gas was then piped through a growing network of underground mains directly into homes and businesses.
Good day, madam. Elijah Farnsworth at your service. I have the distinct pleasure of representing the esteemed Metropolitan Gas and Light Company. Might I impose upon you for just a few moments to demonstrate the illuminating power and indeed the warming comfort of progress itself?
We manage all right. Are you selling lamps, the ones that hiss?
Madam perceives the sound of efficiency. But we offer far more than mere lamps, Mrs. Warriner. We offer liberation. Imagine lighting your entire home with a simple turn of a valve. Instantly. No more messy oil lamps, no trimming wicks, no spilled wax, no constant refueling. Just clean, bright, reliable illumination at your command. And beyond light, madam, consider the heat. Imagine gentle, steady, sootless warmth radiating from an elegant gas heater or even specialized gas logs in your fireplace. All the comfort, none of the back-breaking labor of hauling wood or coal, and none of the pervasive dust that plagues even the most diligent housekeeper.
It looks clever, tidy, but I've heard stories, terrible stories. Explosions, people found asleep permanently.
Yes, the unfortunate incidents of the early, less regulated days. People naturally fear what is new and powerful, but I assure you, Mrs. Warriner, the Metropolitan Gas and Light Company adheres to the highest standards of modern engineering. Our fitters are rigorously trained, our pipes are pressure tested, our systems incorporate the latest safety valves. The risks you speak of belong to a bygone era, much like the Stagecoach or the Pony Express. Why, we are currently offering free safety inspections and remarkably affordable initial connection fees to responsible homeowners like yourselves. Imagine, clean, controllable heat available in every room, not just huddled around one stove.
Every room? Sounds expensive. And what happens when that pipe does leak in the middle of the night? You can't snow it, they say.
A negligible risk compared to the certainty of back strain from the woodpile or the filth of the coal scuttle, wouldn't you agree? Think of the time saved, the cleanliness, the sheer modernity of it. Your home could be a beacon of progress in this neighborhood. I assure you, Mrs. Warriner, our systems are designed with multiple safeguards: comfort, convenience, and safety. That is the promise of gas.
Gas companies across the nation were locked in fierce competition, not just with wood and coal, but increasingly with each other and the nascent threat of electricity, though that's a story for a later episode. Their marketing was aggressive, sophisticated, and relentless. Salesmen like Elijah Farnsworth were well-trained, charming, and armed with arguments designed to overcome fear and appeal to aspirations of status, cleanliness, and reduced domestic labor. They weren't just selling a fuel, they were selling a vision of a new, effortless domestic order.
I'll need to speak to my husband. He handles the bills.
Of course, madam. Prudent. Please allow me to leave this informational pamphlet detailing our services, connection process, and current promotional offers. It also includes testimonials from satisfied customers right here in your city. I shall perhaps call again at a more convenient hour when Mr. Warriner is present.
Margaret watches him go, then picks up the pamphlet, flipping through its glossy pages showing idealized images of gas-powered homes. The temptation was real, the promise of less dirt, less labor, instant light and heat. It was powerful. But the doubts, the ingrained fears fueled by neighborhood gossip and alarming newspaper headlines lingered like a bad smell. Gas promised cleanliness and control, but it also brought new, invisible, and potentially catastrophic dangers right into the heart of the home. The battle for the Warriners' hearth just got a lot more complicated. While middle-class families like the Warriners debated the relative merits and costs of wood, coal, and gas, hundreds of thousands of people living in the teeming tenement districts of America's industrial cities had few choices at all. Packed into poorly constructed, overcrowded buildings with little light or ventilation, the urban poor faced a daily struggle for survival, and keeping warm was a desperate necessity. They burned whatever they could find, whatever they could afford. Cheap, smoky, bituminous coal dust swept up from yards. Scraps of wood scavenged from construction sites. Kerosene, if they could get it, burned in leaky, dangerous lamps or heaters. Sometimes even dried garbage or horse manure. Anything to fight off the bone-chilling cold that permeated the thin walls. But in their desperate efforts to seal out the cold, they often inadvertently sealed in a far greater danger, an invisible threat that crept silently from their sputtering stoves and poorly maintained flues, odorless, colorless, tasteless, and utterly lethal. Carbon monoxide, CO, the silent killer. Today, we understand it well. It's produced by the incomplete combustion of carbon-based fuels. Wood, coal, oil, gas, propane. When fuels don't get enough oxygen to burn cleanly, they release CO instead of harmless CO2. If inhaled, CO molecules bind to hemoglobin in the blood, taking the place of oxygen. Essentially, the body suffocates from the inside out. But back in the 1870s and 80s, the understanding was hazy. People knew about coal gas poisoning from leaks of manufactured gas, which did contain high levels of CO directly from the production process. They knew about the dangers of foul air and bad vapors from stoves. But the specific mechanism of CO poisoning from simple, everyday heating appliances wasn't widely grasped, especially by the general public. There were no detectors, no public health campaigns warning about it. The danger wasn't limited to the desperately poor, though they were certainly the most vulnerable due to substandard housing and heating. Even in middle-class homes like the Warriners, a malfunctioning stove or a blocked chimney could be deadly. Coal-burning stoves, often praised as progress, were particularly risky if not installed and maintained meticulously. A simple mistake, closing a damper too much overnight to conserve fuel, a bird's nest blocking the chimney, a crack in the stovepipe hidden behind plaster, could allow lethal levels of CO to build up while a family slept, unaware.
It's still smoking a bit. Can you smell it? That faint acridness?
I'll open the draft just a touch more. Might be a bit of backflow with this wind shift. Don't want to let all the heat out, though.
Families like the Warriners learned to live in a state of constant low-level vigilance. They learned the subtle signs: a smoky smell, unusual drowsiness, persistent headaches, soot stains appearing where they shouldn't. They understood the delicate balance, too. Too much airflow and precious, expensive heat vanished up the chimney. Too little airflow and the air itself could turn toxic. There was no perfect setting, no foolproof guarantee, only careful observation, guesswork, and a measure of luck. And here's the sobering part, the crucial modern parallel. This danger never truly went away. Even today, with all our technology, carbon monoxide remains a threat. Furnaces malfunction, water heaters fail, flues get blocked, portable generators used inappropriately during power outages claim lives every year. People still die in campers, cabins, and even their own homes due to faulty appliances or poor ventilation. The fuel sources may have changed, the appliances look sleeker, but the fundamental chemistry of incomplete combustion hasn't. The silent killer just found new ways to sneak in. In the Gilded Age, the quest for warmth was inextricably linked with risk. Every new fuel that arrived at the doorstep, promising comfort and convenience, brought with it a shadow. New dangers, new anxieties. Wood meant fire hazards and smoky air. Coal meant choking dust and the insidious threat of CO. Gas meant the terrifying possibility of leaks and explosions. The question hanging heavy in the air, thicker than any smoke, was always the same. What were you willing to risk, or force your family to risk, just to stay warm? So the coal man came and went, leaving his promises of powerful heat and his residue of black dust. The slick gas salesman, Mr. Farnsworth, departed with a tip of his hat, leaving behind his glossy pamphlet filled with visions of effortless modernity. And still, night after night, the Warriners gathered around the familiar, demanding glow of their old wood stove.
That gas feller, Farnsworth, he made it sound appealing. So the city might offer rebates next year for folks who convert fully. Hook up the punch now, pay less down the line. Might be smart long term.
It's not just the cost, Henry. Not really. It's the risk. That pamphlet shows the pipes running right under the floorboards, right under Clara's room. What if it leaks? What if there's a fault, like the one that took the Miller house down last spring? We wouldn't even know until it was too late. I couldn't sleep worrying.
Margaret voiced the anxieties felt by countless homeowners. Gas was new, powerful, and invisible. The infrastructure was still being figured out. Regulations were often lax, and accidents, though perhaps statistically rare, were terrifyingly destructive when they happened. Trusting this volatile substance inside your walls, running beneath where your children slept, required a leap of faith many weren't ready to take. And the coal? While less prone to explosive catastrophe, its own drawbacks weighed heavily, especially on Margaret, the keeper of the home's cleanliness and air quality.
And the coal, that trial sack you bought, the dust got everywhere. Took me 2 days to get the parlor curtains clean again. And the smell, that sulfurous edge, when it burns, it catches in your throat. I worry about Peter's lungs.
So, what did they do? Faced with the high cost and perceived danger of gas, the dirt and smell of cheap coal, and the dwindling supply and rising price of good firewood, the Warriners did what most ordinary people do when faced with imperfect choices and uncertain futures. They compromised. They adapted. They didn't commit to a revolution. They made small, cautious adjustments.
We'll keep burning wood mostly, stretch it as far as we can, but on the really bitter nights, when the temperature drops below 10, we'll supplement with a bit of this coal, just enough to keep the chill off overnight. I'll watch the flue like a hawk, keep it clear. Maybe next year, if things are better, maybe then we can talk seriously about the gas connection, or a proper coal furnace in the cellar if we ever dig one.
The Warriners made their choice, or rather, they delayed a definitive choice, opting for a hybrid approach. And in doing so, they were utterly typical of their time. Big technological transitions rarely happen overnight. People don't just flip a switch from old to new. Fuel loyalty is complex, tangled up with habit, cost, perceived risk, available infrastructure, and deeply ingrained ideas about labor, comfort, and home. It's a negotiation between what feels safe and what seems modern, what you can actually afford and what you simply know how to manage. In some houses, the future arrived with a hiss and a bright, steady flicker. In others, it awaited patiently, smoldering quietly in the belly of an old stove, still bound by the familiar routines of wood and ash. Change wasn't a tidal wave sweeping everyone along at once. It was a slow, uneven tide, rising faster in some places, barely moving in others. Tonight, the Warriners chose what they felt they could control: the dwindling woodpile, the familiar strike of a match, the burn rate of a flame they understood, augmented just enough by the new black rock to see them through till morning. It wasn't the future, perhaps, but it was survival. It was prudence. It was home in all its imperfect, Gilded Age reality. In these closing decades of the 19th century, America stood poised on the threshold of modern comfort, yes, but also modern complexity and modern risk. Cities were exploding outwards and upwards, fueled by industry and immigration. Fortunes were being built on coal, steel, railroads, and new technologies. And energy, the very lifeblood of this transformation, was itself transforming. It was becoming less visible, more centralized, piped in, stored in massive tanks, controlled by distant corporations and complex machinery. Or so the brochures promised. But this transition wasn't uniform. For the wealthy elite, the Vanderbilts and the Carnegies, energy increasingly meant freedom. Freedom from labor, freedom from dirt, the freedom to illuminate vast mansions at the flick of a switch once electricity truly arrived. For everyone else, for the millions of Henrys and Margarets, energy remained a constant negotiation, a source of anxiety, a line item in a tight budget. Their world wasn't yet one system, one standard. It was a messy, inefficient, often dangerous patchwork of old and new. Wood stoves next to gas lines, coal bins beside kerosene cans. A landscape of competing fuels, competing dangers, and difficult decisions made house by house, day by day. The Warriners, in their cautious compromise, were not outliers. They were the norm. They represented the millions who found themselves caught between worlds, lingering in the doorway between the old ways and the new promises, bound by habit and budget, guided by a healthy dose of skepticism and caution, carried forward ever so slowly, not by revolutionary fervor, but by the relentless momentum of industrial change. We tend to look back and simplify these moments. We like tidy narratives. We think energy transitions are sudden, decisive events. That one day, whale oil lamps vanished, replaced by kerosene. That wood stoves disappeared overnight when coal arrived. That the electric grid instantly illuminated every corner of the nation. But the reality, as the Warriners' story shows us, is always far messier, far slower, far more human. Change is lived incrementally. It's negotiated in kitchens and parlors. It's resisted and adapted to, day by painstaking day, decision by difficult decision. And that brings us right back to us. Today, right now, we stand in the midst of another profound energy transition, perhaps the most critical one in human history. We're shifting from fossil fuels, the legacy of the very coal the Warriners debated, towards renewable sources like solar and wind. We're moving from gasoline-powered cars to electric vehicles. We're exploring geothermal energy, advanced battery storage, hydrogen power, smarter grids. We're replacing gas furnaces with electric heat pumps. We're trying to decarbonize, to build a sustainable future, to combat climate change. And like the Warriners, navigating their confusing world of wood, coal, and gas, we face our own complex set of questions, our own anxieties, our own difficult choices. What's truly safe and reliable in the long run? What's genuinely sustainable? What's affordable for ordinary families, not just the affluent? How do we ensure the transition is just and equitable, that communities dependent on old industries aren't left behind? How do we balance individual choices with collective needs and government policies? What infrastructure needs to be built? And ultimately, what are we willing to risk, or change, or give up to power our homes and our future? The fire inside the American home, whether fueled by wood, coal, gas, or electrons, was never just about warmth. It was, and still is, about identity, about security, about economics and politics, about our relationship with technology and the natural world. It's about power, in every sense of the word. Join us next time on Gilded Fuel Wars as we move from the parlor stove to the heart of the Victorian kitchen. We'll explore how the battle over fuel transformed cooking, cleaning, and the very definition of domestic work, sparking a whole new kind of revolution, one pot and kettle at a time. Oh boy. Hey y'all, it's Dave. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Gilded Fuel Wars. This is a brand new project for me, and I thank you all so much for joining me here on Gilded Steam, a YouTube channel that I've just created. I'm hoping to do more like this. We've got a 5-part series planned on the Gilded Fuel Wars. All of this work is done by me, and it's a passion project of mine. So if you like it, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and of course, let me know what you want to hear down in the comments. There's so much in this late Victorian period that we could touch on. So please, it'll take me some time. I'll do my best to credit you if I end up using one of your ideas. And, you know, I'm just here for a good time. Well, hopefully it's a long time too. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.